Hey everybody, welcome back to the world's worst fishing. I am Chris Jones, and first things first, thank you so much for being here today, taking time out of your day to watch me fiddle around with colors and glitter in my garage, okay? Make no mistake about it, this is just arts and crafts all grown up for anglers. So with introduction out of the way, today is going to be what I hope is a very exciting hand pour. I've probably been asked to hand pour this color more than any other color, okay? Today we're gonna try a tilapia. Me personally, I know that I enjoy tilapia. I've eaten it a ton. So I do understand why the bass like them. I like them too, much like bluegill, speckled perch, crawfish. I love eating like a bass. So in any event, we're gonna jump in and see if we can recreate some magic here. There again, you know, tilapia, it's a really exciting color. They're super, like if you've ever seen a tilapia in person, they're real tropical, they're real exotic looking, and they have crept their way up here to North Florida. Lake Seminole actually has a pretty substantial population of blue tilapia, and they are absolutely huge. You take a bluegill and multiply it by like a factor of 4, and I mean, these tilapia, I want to learn how to catch them, to be honest. If anybody knows how to catch them, particularly when they're bedding, please let me know, because I know where they bed. So let's try to recreate some tilapia swim baits, and yeah, fingers crossed here. This is going to be a tough one. So let's take a look at this tilapia here. Credit to hdk.fishing on Instagram. I totally ripped this off from them. Just look at the pattern here. I love the faint striping. It's almost like a brown striping. It's not necessarily black. I mean, it's so faint. It's like, what's going on there? But I love the pinks. Look at the pink in the fins here, up in the head. You know, parts of the belly portion. It's sort of an aqua blue on top. That is absolutely masterful. So what I'm thinking we're gonna do is obviously pour a pink skin layer that kind of maybe starts halfway up the belly here and goes well up into the head portion. We'll do some faint sort of brownish green striping down the edges, and then maybe the body is going to be sort of like a cream color, and then sort of a dark aqua blue top. I think that's the direction that we need to go. So let's go mix up our plastic and get started. Weapon of choice today, Dead On Plastics craw tube in the black bucket. This is the real heavy, dense sinking blend, and that's what I prefer to make most of my baits with. I do use some of their floating blends every now and then, but for the most part, you know, if you look at my buckets here, they're pretty much all the black bucket. I primarily run 3 blends of their plastic: the worm for soft stuff, the Swimbait jerkbait blend for medium stuff, and then the craw tube for whenever I need something firm. And real quick, just wanted to show you a few recent fun pours. This is an 8-layer juvenile striped bass. So just to look at this one, the trick is to pour all the layers as evenly and straight as possible, but then you'll see the black stripes, they don't go up into the head portion. And that's, you know, if you look at a striped bass, the stripes don't go all the way up to like where their eyes are. So that was really a challenge, but you can see I was able to get the layers pretty well even and straight, and that is an exercise in patience and a great way to build your laminating chops with hand pouring. And this was a fun one right here. I saw a picture of a crawfish that had all these colors, and I call this one like a bubblegum crawfish. It's a pretty fun pour. A lot going on, takes a lot of time. It's, you know, a little, you know, over the top, but hey, I like a good challenge. All right, so we have our first little cup of plastic cooked up here, and I'm just gonna start with some brown, because those stripes to me look primarily brown. So we're just gonna do, come on, a few drops there and see where that takes us. You know, whenever you're doing multiple skin pour layers, saturation is key. You do not want things too thin or too thick. You want the layers to be saturated enough that you see them, but also see-through enough to where they can kind of play off each other a little bit and sort of create an illusion effect. 2 drops of green pumpkin. Let's see where that takes us. Yeah, that's looking nice. That's looking real nice. So the way that I can kind of tell how thick a skin's going to be is just to drizzle some on the hook slot insert and just kind of let it drip like I would. And you can see that's still very thin. I mean, completely see-through. So I want to thicken things up a little bit more. Okay, a few more drops of brown. And basically I'm just going to keep doing this, adding a little bit of color at a time until I'm satisfied. And I'm also going to put a little bit of flake in this, so I think we'll probably do that now. However, let me drizzle some on there again. Yeah. See, now to me that's looking a little bit better, right? There's good saturation there, but it's still see-through enough that the hook slot insert, you can still see the color of that playing off of it. Okay, everybody, welcome back. And here is our color right here. Sorry, I thought it was in frame. So we darkened it up with a little bit of black, okay? Now it's time to pour some stripes. And again, these are all skin pour layers. So just real slow and methodical. Gonna get it started. Let it drip down to the bottom. Okay? Now we're gonna do the next one. Down to the bottom. Next. And so on and so on. And you can see I'm pouring these very close together. Not a whole lot of distance between the two, which means this is going to be a very time-consuming pour. Because the more of these you pour, the longer it takes. We'll do one more. It'll be 6 stripes total. All right. So you can see they're nice and even. You know, I was lucky there. Got my spacings really even. I mean, that's about as good as I can just freehand pour something. And you'll see that, clean up some of the little leftovers on the table. You can see that there are some spaces between the two. Now I'm going to go in and fill those in. Just slightly, okay? That way there's kind of no gaps between our layers up here on the top. So just sort of like a small, thin, continuous stream, okay? Just like that. And that will kind of fill in those gaps. All right, and we're gonna show you one more real fast, sort of as I would pour it on my own without a camera. I tend to go a little bit faster, so let's see how we can do here. One after another. Yeah, looking good so far. One more. Okay, so that went pretty smooth. So if we look at the front of the mold, the head section, I pretty much left it open. So we're going to have a pink skin layer that's going to be poured on the bottom of the mold, okay? Sort of like you saw in the picture, up into the head. And then we're going to have that dark kind of blue top. However, I want a third color in there just to make things blend and merge naturally. So I'm just going to head pour just a little bit, okay, of the green pumpkin into the head section. Now we're going to get to see the pink interact behind the green pumpkin and the blue top interact behind the green pumpkin. So from the outside, the front of that bait, you're going to see a merger of 3 colors that are going to blend together in a very natural way. All right, now for some pink. We're going to use, you guessed it, pink! Dead on Neo Pink. This is a beautiful shade of pink. All right. Couple drops there. Let's see where that takes us. Yeah, looking good. However, if we look at our tilapia here, let's take a look. you can see it is much more of a peach, right? And to get that, we need to add some orange to it, okay? And what I like about this Lureworks orange, this particular orange right here, Blaze Orange, it is so watered down, it is so thin that you don't accidentally put too much in. I mean, that was probably the equivalent of 20 something drops, and you can see it just barely changed it. So sometimes you want a super saturated pigment, and then other times whenever you just really want to add just a small hue to a color, you want something that is watered down. That way you don't accidentally add too much. So I automatically want more, okay? And you can see I'm just dumping it in. I'm not sitting there counting drops or anything like that. Let's go ahead and see what our layer is looking like. Oh yeah, that's looking good. That's looking real good. Yeah. Boy, we might add just a smidge more of that and then call it a day. Okay, yeah, actually the more I look at that, I need more orange. So, a little more orange because it's just not quite peachy enough. So we're gonna load it up on that one. Yeah. That's looking a little more like it. Maybe even a touch more. Alright, now we're gonna stop. Okay, so here's what we have. We added a little bit of flake, and here's how we're gonna pour this. We wanna pour it on the bottom, about halfway up the belly, into the nose, okay? So this is sort of a tricky pour. You gotta get it right on the belly section, right? And then pour it into the head, okay? It's okay if a little bit drips out. Then you can kind of let it run down and run a little bit further up the bait. And then basically just kind of let it settle. Just like that. So we can go ahead and take that part out right there. No worries. Comes right off. And so if you sort of look at the profile where the color is in the belly, right? It's sort of right there in that top corner, or excuse me, the bottom corner. So that's kind of how we're going to play that. Sorry, that's not really in frame. All right, and then you got to do the same thing on the opposite side. Got to pull that little tab off there. That way we have a clean spout to pour from. You don't want this to be gunked up in plastic. You don't get a very precise pour. Okay, and same thing goes for this side. This part you really cannot rush. Yeah. Maybe let it run down a smidge, okay? And then run back up, sort of puddle up in that head section. And there we go. That's what we're doing for all of these. So it's not an easy pour, but it's certainly not as time consuming as all of this stuff that we did with the brown pumpkin there. So that is the next part. And then after that, the hard part is done. Then we just need to fill it in, pour the body, and then we're good. And hopefully we have a good looking tilapia. Okay, and everything is now poured out. And we are heating up the belly color, I guess, of plastic. And it's going to be sort of like a creamy white with some flake in it. So that is what we have. We're going to close up the molds, and then we're going to mix up the belly color. And the belly color is key, I think. Oh, all right, here's a little tip. If you ever have your skins come loose like that, place them back in it, and then blast it with the heat gun. And as that plastic melts down again, it will then stick back in place. All right, let's mix up this, garbage man's here. Let's mix up this white sort of creamy pearl. And we're gonna start with just a little bit of regular white pigment, okay? I normally use white pearl in my bellies, but I want this one to be a little more normal and not and not have such a pearly effect, okay? And then now we're actually gonna go back, to our brown and brown it up a smidge. Okay, so let's see what that gets us. We are gonna use some white pearl. It's just not gonna be the majority of the base. That's gonna be our base, okay? Sort of a brownish, creamy, white cream. I don't even know how to pronounce it or say it, but now we're gonna add a little bit of pearl, but just a little bit, just to give it somewhat of a, man, they're out there slinging some recycling. Just to give it a little bit of a pearl effect, okay? And then next, we're gonna add some flakes. So I wanna add some purple flake because I just think purple and tilapia go together quite well. Again, not too much flake. We're not doing anything in too much excess with these colors. All right. Next, I want to add some black flake because black flake just goes with everything. I think it just looks terrific. It adds that perfect texture to colors. Okay, so a little bit of black flake, and then we're actually going to add a little bit of pink flake, which is really cool stuff right there, pink, just to sort of complement the pink that's already in the bait. Again, not a whole lot. You start adding multiple flakes like this and it can get overflaked very fast, if you know what I mean. So that's sort of what we're gonna go with. I'm going to look at it again and see if I need to change anything. So give me a moment, folks. Okay, here is our final cream sort of color. I actually added a little bit more white and then snuck in 1 drop of green pumpkin in there, and I think it looks pretty nice. So we're just going to fill in these bellies. Same thing as usual, except this is not going to have a middle vein color, so I'm going to fill it up pretty much as far as I can go without it sinking down into the tail. Okay, so that's how I'm going to be pouring the bellies right there. I almost got this plastic too hot and scorched that purple flake. Purple flake is very temperature sensitive, and it doesn't quite have the shine to it that it did. But I don't want to remix this out. So, little tip there, when using purple flake, purple and red really seem to be your problem flakes whenever you're dealing with super high temperatures. So whenever you're reheating like I was doing, be careful, or else you can ruin a great color very quickly. Okay, and now the time has come to pour this top layer, and I went ahead and mixed it up off camera. That is just 3 drops of black, and then the tiniest possible amount of blue mica powder, which sort of gives it that kind of charcoalish, grayish blue hue that you see there, and then just a little bit of medium black flake. Now, up until this point, the heat griddle has been on about 200, which just kind of keeps things warm and hot, but not hot enough that it's going to keep the plastic gelled, and I'm essentially cold pouring the mold, which is how I can achieve flake suspension. So if this mold was already to full temperature, if you notice, that top layer has a little bit of black flake in it. If the mold was already super hot and was going to keep that plastic gelled, all that flake would basically sink to the bottom, right? So your flake would just wind up at the bottom of your tail, and you would not really have good flake suspension throughout the bait. So that's why I'm pouring the mold warm, quote unquote, instead of to full temperature. Once I'm done pouring these, I'll kick it up to 350, come back 20 minutes later, and normally everything is ready to go. Whenever you have all these skin layers, heat is absolutely key. You want them to melt together. You want them to just fuse together, blend together without any cold cracks or lines. That way you get a nice natural pour. All right, how do our tilapia hand pour swim baits look? let's find out. Join me in a drum roll, please. All right. Yeah, the molds are still slightly warm, but should be ready to take out. What you don't want to do, people, is try to take the mold apart when the bait is still not set up all the way. You will literally rip it in half trying to pull the two sides. So there we go. Looks like it's going to come off on the top edge there, or on the top side. Beautiful. Oh, look at that. I tell you, one of my favorite parts is that kind of bluish tail, that top color. Yeah, what do y'all think? That looks pretty tilapia-ish to me. Now, I gotta critique myself, because that's the whole point of practicing. If I was to do this again, I would make the striping a little bit less green and add some of that blue to it. I think overall, some of the overall blue tint that these tilapia have might be a little bit missing there. So I mean, golly, that's awesome though. That really does look good. All right, let's get a few more tilapia out. Yeah, I definitely like the consistency though that I'm seeing. That's definitely important to, even if your pour isn't perfect like you wanted it, if they come out consistent, that's a good thing. That means that you are pouring things equally between the molds. And I think that is just a result of practicing your techniques. So, and one more. These are really pretty though. I like them. Obviously, I want you guys to leave me comments down below and let me know how you think we did. Oh, that one turned out really good. Yeah, I think they look nice with those red eyes on there. If we look at the picture example one more time, let me find it. It's in here somewhere. Here it is. Yeah, if we look at our picture example, you'll see that tilapia has a red eye. Pretty cool. So if that one can have a red eye, mine can have a red eye. What do you guys think? I'm gonna go ahead and throw eyes on them, lay them all out, and we'll sign this one off. Yes, sir. Look at these. Yeah, looking good. I really love that blue tail, that black with just a little bit of blue powder. And man, I love that shade of pink, that peachy pink. That orange just kind of dials down the saturation of that pink, and to me really makes it look nice and natural. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Oh yeah, looking good sitting there lined up in a row. Alright guys, that's gonna wrap this video up. What a cool thing. I mean, tilapia, it's such an awesome color, and they're like bluegill, and really I guess anything else. They come in so many varieties of color pattern. That's sort of like the most common, I think. The one that we showed is what you normally kind of see. A lot of them don't have as much pink in it, but I chose that particular one because it had such beautiful shades of pink, you know, in the in the head section and in the belly section. So man, what a challenge. Definitely tons of room to improve. You know, that was my second ever attempt at pouring that, and you know, you can only get better from there. So I will definitely be putting some more effort into my tilapia pours, and hopefully dial some other good versions of it in as well. So with that said, shoot me lots of comments down below. Let me know what you thought, and we'll catch you next time.